When I started my career as a coach, there was always this conversation around like figuring out your niche. Because if you tell someone you're a life coach, that might sound intriguing, but it doesn't resonate with them because it just sounds so broad. And other coaches out there may have heard about this conversation as well around figuring out your niche, right? So I was trying to figure out my niche, and I knew career like clarity empowerment was an area of interest for me. So I decided to land on that. And I also knew I didn't want to coach someone like just starting their career. I wanted to coach someone kind of like myself who had been, doing some work and realized over time that the work they kind of had journeyed into was maybe not like the right fit for them, or there was something else kind of calling to them.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. Before Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7 and 8 figure career coaching businesses myself and consulted with 2 career coaching businesses that are now doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or just building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Rexhen, and today's guest is Payal Shah. She is a certified professional coach and the founder of Passion Empowered. She helps mid-career professionals get unstuck and find clarity, purpose, and renewed momentum in both work and life. Drawing from her own experience navigating transitions and empowering others to do the same, Payal customizes her coaching to meet people where they are, whether at crossroads or already on the move. It's my pleasure to have you on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Payal.
Thank you, Rexhen. Great to be here.
Payal, tell me a little bit more about what inspired you to become a coach.
Yeah. It's like a long journey. It's like a decade-long journey at least, or maybe one can say it started when we're very young. I'm not sure. But I would say when I was in the corporate world, I was taking some personal development classes on the side, and I had coaches in them that really helped me see what I thought was beyond my potential. Like they saw that it was capable of it, right? And they kind of pushed me to kind of realize that for myself. And I thought that was just so powerful to see something that we don't feel like we're capable of doing and then push past that and prove to ourselves that we are capable of doing that. So that whole experience was very powerful. And I think at that point in time, I was actively starting to think about, hey, maybe coaching is a career option. But again, I was still in the corporate world, still doing my thing. It was a good job. So it wasn't like an easy place to necessarily leave. But it did start like looking at that as a career option. So I got a book on coaching. I didn't do much else. And then there was a reorg at the corporation. And so I was like really focused on doing a whole other role really well. But once I left, I still had not career coaching, but I had coaching in general as an interest. And so I enrolled in a coaching program, got certified, and that more formally began that journey for me.
Mm-hmm. So you left your job? Was that like you left your job to do this training and then get into coaching? Was that it?
I was at the corporation about 10 years. I think the last role I was in, again, it was reorged into, was not a good fit for me. So I tried it out for a while. And even before that role, I think I was wanting to do something that felt more impactful, more directly on people's lives. And so while I did enjoy creating relationship with our customers and helping them out with their accounts, ultimately it wasn't the type of work that had me feeling fulfilled. And then the last role was also just not aligned kind of my interests and my strengths and that sort of thing. So it made sense to kind of leave. And then I had this, opening where I could like do whatever I wanted, which is a daunting question to ask oneself. But I knew when I asked myself that question that coaching was still of interest. And so I can talk more about this later, but I think I didn't have it all figured out, but I knew what next step felt like a good next step. And that's kind of where I started with enrolling in a coaching program.
And how does the journey look like right after you started? From the moment you started the program to where you actually moved and created your own coaching business and all the way till today, shortly, how do you think how was that journey?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting journey to say the least. It definitely feels more aligned to who I am and what I care about than what I was doing prior. So I will say that much. it has its own set of challenges and its own set of opportunities, and I'll talk more about those as well. But when the journey started, again, I had this like the oyster is my world. I can do anything at this point in time. I've left the corporation. What do I want to do? And I also like had a financial cushion, so I knew I didn't have to like rush to make a decision. So I really like looked at what was important for me, and I again coaching was of interest. So I knew myself. I knew having some sort of a structured way of becoming a coach would be helpful for me. If I try to do it on my own, I might miss the mark. I don't, and I also just like having some sort of structure. So I enrolled in the program, I think a couple months after I left my job. And then I was excited because I got to be a student again, and I hadn't had that for many years. And it was the program I did my coaching training through was IPAC, and it was just a very positive, you know, encouraging kind of type of messaging that they have around the program. Kind of like, you kind of shared at the beginning of this, like where you're at is kind of where you need to be. And so it just resonated with me. And so I enrolled in that. It was, I think, a 7-month active program, like, part-time. It wasn't like a full-time thing. But it was a lot of fun. It was really powerful. I got to meet a lot of great coaches in it, some of whom I'm still in contact with today. So great cohort of people, great content, great training, and good set of instructors. And so that was the journey at that point in time. After that, it was kind of like figuring out things on my own, which was interesting, right? I found myself doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff, which is necessary for setting up one's business, but it was like working a lot of time on my website, trying to perfect that and getting feedback on it, created business cards, figured out like online, calendaring, that sort of thing. There's a whole bunch of different things logistics wise that, comes with business building. So I think there was like a couple of years of that, but also just doing different sorts of jobs to kind of earn money as well, right? I was interested in financial planning as well around that time, so I was doing an internship around that. I was doing some of the work I did in search marketing as like a consultant. So there's a bit of that as well. So it's kind of a hodgepodge and trying to figure things out on my own. At some point, I did enroll in a business building program. So I did that. A lot of great advice and tips, but I also realized I need to implement this advice and tips before I can really see more results. So I knew that I had the content. Now it was about executing on it. And then fast forward, one of my coaching friends from that training program actually introduced me to a mental health coaching company and said they were hiring. So I thought, why not? This is a great way to just start getting clients. Or I had a few clients, but it was kind of sporadic when they would, when they would come in. And so I thought this is a great way to have a consistent stream of clients and get to do what I love to do, which is coach. And so I joined that company about 4 years ago. And then I know I'm going very long-winded, but that I think actually I'm going to backtrack. The year before, I had gotten connected to a couple other South Asian coaches, and we thought like there's just a great opportunity in this space to raise awareness about the benefits of coaching and kind of the impact of this work amongst the South Asian community. So the three of us kind of collaborated to create a South Asian Coaches Initiative, and had like a workshop series and just different social media and stuff that we were doing together. So it was kind of a collaboration that we did. And then the following year is when I joined the mental wellness company as a part-time coach. And then so that was through a connection that I had. I wasn't even actively looking, but because that connection saw value in my skills as a coach, she introduced it to me. And then I also had it's interesting. Like on LinkedIn, I feel a lot of people reach out trying to sell us things, but sometimes you get like a gem in the mix, right? And someone had reached out about their own coaching startup that needed career coaches. So I was like, okay, this seems like a reasonable request, genuine, and I spoke to that person, and I ended up becoming like a contract coach with that company. I didn't end up getting a lot of leads through that company in terms of coaching clients, but I did meet another coach who introduced me to another company, also doing career coaching. And then I worked with them for a couple of years. And so I'm going to pause there because I've just shared a lot, but it's just been like a hodgepodge of different opportunities coming my way that I've like evaluated and said yes to that have led me to kind of where I am today.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
And like later on, you basically continued this path where you're working with a company as a subcontractor, where at least you don't have to do a lot of marketing for your own and a lot of sales. You're still kind of like maybe doing that, but to a smaller scale for the people who come directly to you, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Cool. And when it comes to the people that you work with, typically, is there a target audience? Is there a specific group of people that you generally work with
Yeah.
about these companies?
Yeah. Great question. So when I started my career as a coach, there was always this conversation around like figuring out your niche. Because if you tell someone you're a life coach, that might sound intriguing, but it doesn't resonate with them because it just sounds so broad. And other coaches out there may have heard about this conversation as well around figuring out your niche, right? So I was trying to figure out my niche, and I knew career like clarity and empowerment was an area of interest for me. So I decided to land on that. And I also knew I didn't want to coach someone like just starting their career. I wanted to coach someone kind of like myself who had been, doing some work and realized over time that the work they kind of had journeyed into was maybe not like the right fit for them, or there was something else kind of calling to them. So I made my focus mid-career professionals, and I use like the word feeling stuck because that's kind of like the feeling that sometimes comes up for some people of like, what do I do next? I've already invested all this time in the career that I'm doing. I know I'm not satisfied with it. I could either try to make it work, or I could explore doing something else. But it's scary because I already invested all this time in this area, right? So there's this question of like, what do I do? I feel kind of stuck, right? And really like digging deep with that individual to kind of figure out what is it that is going to help them feel fulfilled, right? Given where they are at this point in time. So that's been my target niche for a while now, and through that and through the mental wellness coaching and through the career coaching um, of BIPOC individuals through the other company, um, I was seeing that a lot of clients I was getting were clients who were bicultural, who struggled sometimes with these questions because of their bicultural background. There's one thing the American culture says, another thing their culture says, and how do you make them mix? And how how do you navigate like a career transition if your family is not really on board with it, or like those sorts of things, right? And so what I realized is, especially with the mental wellness companies, I was attracting a lot of East Asian and South Asian clients just naturally. Like they would find me in the like listings and they're like, yeah, sure, I'll try to work with her. And I realized that when coaching was made available as a resource, so like as an employee resource, like a lot of people would try it out. People who may not otherwise go out and pay for it themselves, when they have it as a benefit, they may try out for the first time. So I was getting a lot of people new to coaching who are East Asian, South Asian in descent, and really getting to experience the power of coaching through that sort of space. So that's an area that I've like newly started to focus on, at least more in my marketing. I have been focusing on that clientele, but now more in my marketing. Bicultural individuals feeling stuck and looking to create more purposeful, meaningful lives is kind of my focus now.
And that being the focus now, if we were to look at the future, are there any goals that you're working towards for like the next 1 to 3 years with your coaching business? How does the
Yeah.
future look like?
Yeah, definitely. Well, definitely, there's always a goal of growing my coaching business. And I still work with, another company as a contractor, or I guess I'm a technical employee, but I work with them as a coach. And I enjoy getting clients through the mental wellness company to coach. It's a really joy, like the sorts of conversations I get to have. At the same time, I've always like held on to having my own business. I haven't yet decided like, oh, I'm going to go back full time and work for somebody else. There's part of me that enjoys having my own thing. I don't feel like I've always like cracked the nut and like how to make it a sustainable, big business. But there's an interest there. So I think my goals the next 1 to 3 years is to grow my business, but to grow it from all the knowledge I've gained the last few years. So I think I did like a lot more marketing, let's say 4 years ago. I'm a different coach, I'm a different person than I am 4 years ago. And there's a lot of deep knowledge around specifically what bicultural individuals may go through that I can speak to. So this also includes doing more social media. It also includes being a podcast guest, as nerve wracking as that can feel, right? To get myself out there and to just talk about these challenges and opportunities that we might have as bicultural individuals.
Nice. And so basically you're trying to grow your like the goal is in the future, like 1 to 3 years, you're trying to grow your own business and try to get leads on your own business directly, as opposed to working for another company and getting clients that way. I really like that goal. And yeah, when it comes to these podcasts, yeah, for me personally, I am kind of like an introvert. So even though even though I'm an introvert, still I kind of like do well in one-to-one conversations. So even for me, it's not that easy. However, like over experience, I think I've gotten better. But I feel that you have the right mindset when it comes to doing marketing for your own business. So as many podcasts as you can do, I think that's going to help in getting more eyeballs out of LinkedIn, especially because this type of content is not easy AI-able. So like an AI, like with the world that we are in now, an AI could do like an article. It could even do like a full copy of yourself and a video with it. However, for the podcast and being authentic a human, I feel like this is something that we as humans have an advantage over AI. So I feel like, yeah, a lot of people are going to be interested in seeing more of your true and authentic self throughout these podcasts. So I feel like you have the right mindset about that. The next question I have for you is when it comes to your coaching business, you mentioned that you first invested in yourself by going into and learning more about how to coach, how to be a coach at the early beginnings, and having a structure about that. Have there been other investments after that? And by other investments, I mean that have actually helped you grow your coaching business, maybe investments in yourself, or maybe you've been part of like a coaching program, a masterminds, or maybe communities that you found to be useful in you growing your coaching business?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think in investment, like money wise, I did a coaching business building program, right? So again, lots of great knowledge. Some of it I probably still need to go through back to my notes and implement some of it, right? So even tips like, having like a freebie offer to do lead gen, just offering something of value to someone that they don't have to pay for, right? Things like that. I think I learned through those sorts of programs or other sorts of coaching conversations that were around me. Apart from that, I think just investing in our own personal development. I think I've done like one-off personal development programs. So I'm not even working on building my business, but just like deepening my own self-awareness, which just goes a long ways in our work as coaches with other individuals. And it helps us see and empathize with our clients by like having our own self-awareness deepened. So I think those sorts of works have been useful. And then I guess I don't know if this counts as business building. I think it does. I think there's like a financial investment around just having those like behind the scene things taken care of. Like, do you have something that you use to help sign contracts? Do you have a calendaring program? Do you have a website? Do you have other sorts of ways, right? Do you have social media marketing? So there are like financial investments in some of those places that you make just to help your business operate more smoothly, right? So it's less time spent doing admin work, but it's just the flow is kind of there for you once a client signs on and works with you, decides to work with you.
Yeah, totally. Those are very important investments. And I've had coaches that I've interviewed in the past as well that talk a lot about the importance of having automations to eliminate the admin work so that you're focused on the rest of the business, which is the coaching side or maybe the marketing, but not the operation side of marketing, but basically working on the strategy and also the sales side of it. So I wanted to ask you, is there, in the moment that you decided to move into coaching, and now it's been 7 years and 2 months and maybe a little bit more, is there something that you wish you had known first when you started it, that is like an unexpected or expected lesson learned?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you have to kind of go through it to get it. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Like I did have people tell me, like, I remember a person who had done the personal development training that I'd done, and he's like, it's one thing to be a coach in there as a volunteer. It's another thing to try to make a career as a coach. Like that's a whole other level. Or like I forget the word he used, but it's different, right? I remember one of my colleagues at work saying like there's a lot of hustle involved, right? Hustle culture involved in running your own business, right? So they weren't necessarily like telling me not to do it. They're kind of like giving me like heating me warnings, like, hey, this might be difficult. And so I kind of got that conceptual. I was like, okay, it might be difficult, right? But I also was like, I still want to try it. So it's not like I wasn't warned. And it has been difficult. But I guess one thing I didn't realize or take into account is that as a coach, even though I came from the sales world within the corporation, I was like, well, I don't want to do sales anymore. It's still sales, right? Now we got to relate to it differently. And there is like, I think, again, conversations around like really getting enrolled in the work that you're doing such that it's not selling anymore. It's just sharing, right? It's getting to that point, but it can feel icky. It can feel transactional when we're in like, I have to sell myself. I have to sell my practice, right? And what's scary is that you are your own brand. So it's not like I'm selling that product or service over there and like letting the sales do it for itself, like by promoting kind of the qualities of it. I have to sell, and I don't even know what to use to sell, but I have to enroll people in me, and that is very vulnerable. It can be confronting. It's very personal. And so I didn't anticipate that in going into this. I think a lot of people are drawn to coaching because they are service oriented. They want to help other people. But then there's this whole other business side of it, which can not be healing, right? And I just want to acknowledge that. And I think that business building course I did take, I was one thing that the woman who created that had mentioned is like, if you want to be like a coach running your own practice, you have to love both coaching and you have to at least be interested in running your own business. Like both have to exist to some degree, right? And I remembering that I was like, yeah, okay, that's good to keep in mind. So those are a few lessons. I think it doesn't change. Like, it wouldn't change what I do, but I'm more aware of them now. Yes.
I actually had a coach just last evening, yesterday, where I was interviewing her, and she also had a similar kind of challenge when it comes to sales, which is for her it was more of like a mindset challenge of like bringing up the actual like setting up like a number to the service that you're providing, like putting a price to it. She always had like kind of like a challenge with it, mindset wise, on when to bring that up. This is especially the case initially. And I think with experience, once you start to get more clients, in your case, you kind of like have in a way avoided that because you're not doing that fully on your own. But there's some clients that come to you directly where you face that. I feel like it just goes with experience, and over time, like you just need to shift your mindset when it comes to sales. One other question I wanted to ask you is, what is the biggest challenge you're facing now? You mentioned that you want to grow your coaching business over time as a goal. What would you say is the biggest challenge you're facing now in scaling your coaching business, that if you were to fix that, it would get much easier for the rest of it? Is it the sales part? Is it the lead generation part? Or is it something else? Maybe your time? What would you say is the biggest challenge?
I would say at this point, it's probably lead generation. Um, and the biggest challenge I see is like getting on my own way. And maybe other coaches out there understand that, right? It's like as we're coaching others, right? It's also continuously building the self-awareness around where we're creating limited beliefs for ourselves, right? And so for me, I've never had it in my mind like, oh yeah, my business is going to be like the sole 7, 8 figure source of income for me. I was like, yeah, it'll be a source of income, but I like doing different things, so I'll have income from different places. So I've had that mindset. Why I have that mindset, I don't know. Maybe I think it's too much work to get to that level. Maybe I think it's not possible. But I do realize there's mindset limitations, right? And so in similar vein to kind of like the coaches I had, this is just occurring to me, so I'll just share it. Similar vein to the coaches I had in the personal development program, I need to push myself past what my limited beliefs are, right? That means like challenging them by saying like, okay, well, I don't know if like it's going to go well if I do a podcast. Let's do it anyway, right? Or finding that healthy balance. There's a framework. There's sometimes share with clients. It's not my framework. It's one that's out there. It's like there's 3 concentric circles. The middle one is your comfort zone. The one outside of that is your stretch zone. The one outside of that is your panic zone. So we know what comfort zone feels like. We're in it, that sort of thing. We know what panic zone feels like. It's scary. It's daunting. Paralyzed, right? The goal isn't to get yourself into panic zone. It's to get yourself into a stretch zone around the things that we end up taking on, whether pushing our clients to look at that for themselves or doing that for ourselves. So we're walking the talk with our clients. So definitely that's the biggest reason for, I think, the lead gen. I think the other couple of things are like, I know what I need to do, like with the business building program. I know I need to get myself just out there, speaking and speaking my truth, speaking why I see the value in this to be without it being like sales, just sharing content, having interesting conversations. I think the other thing is for the niche that I'm looking at now, bicultural individuals, at least historically, and I don't know the cases, I think it's changing with generations. I'll just take the South Asian culture. Like there's this notion like to not get help from someone else, like for mental health type things. There's a taboo type of topic. So if you talk to people in my parents' generation, most of them would be like, why would you need to see a therapist? Like, doesn't make sense. Like we've dealt with this all our lives. Like there's nothing to get help on, right? And I see you nodding and smiling, so there's some understanding there. So there's that mentality there that we're having to challenge, but it takes something to challenge like a traditional mindset, especially if people around you aren't challenging it, right? And so there is that barrier there, that mentality of like, would like coaching or therapy be helpful for me? Maybe not, right? There's but what is the belief that's there for us that's like having us not look at it in the first place, right? What are things that we're willing to challenge for ourselves? um, for our own betterment, right? What are limited beliefs? What are narratives that we have? What are aspects of our identity that like we feel are static that we can actually start to move and discover something new about ourselves through it? So I think there's at least a twofold challenge: one internal, one external. But those are top ones I see.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least the good news, I think, there is when it comes to the traditional thinking of not needing coaching, I think that's kind of slowly going away because a lot of people are actually, and coaching is becoming more common recently. I think a lot of more people are seeing the value in it, and the people who are seeing the value in it are like giving more awareness to other people who don't yet see the value. And I feel like that is only going to continue to grow. So I feel like eventually we'll get past that challenge. And I've had that challenge come up quite often. That's why I was smiling, because it's always been kind of like a situation with coaches where they have to explain the value, or they find that it's kind of sometimes difficult for people to believe in coaching or invest in coaching. Sometimes that feels like a luxury, but it actually is. And yeah, so I do completely, I'm fully with you on that, and I feel like eventually it's going to move away. So yeah, is there any final advice you'd like to give to other coaches who are looking to scale their impact? And this would be like an advice you'd give to yourself, if like to yourself when you decide to scale, when you decide to take that next step.
Yeah. I think first I want to just offer empathy for anyone feeling like they're struggling. I think it can, like, again, like I said, I believe a lot of coaches come into coaching because they're very sort of service oriented. They're not in it necessarily to like make big bucks. So they want to like maybe earn a comfortable living. Maybe I'm generalizing, maybe I'm incorrect, but a lot of it's really about helping other people, right? And then to come into it and feel like, oh, I gotta sell my services, I gotta sell myself, I gotta do social media, I do everything but coaching to get some coaching clients when all I want to do is coach. that can be disheartening, right? So I just want to offer empathy for anyone going through that right now. I've been there. I will be there again. Like it's like a up and down journey, right? And I will say like something that I didn't actively work on, but I had around me or I've had around me is just coaching colleagues, right? Even whether it's like so the coaching like cohort program I did, like a number of us, we stayed in contact. We would have monthly just chats for about 6 years since the program ended. Like so we were in touch, right? And still I can reach out to any one of those individuals and feel like chat with them and like commiserate or like share what's going on or celebrate the wins because um the wins that we have like in this world, being in this world, like they may not seem like extraordinary wins to someone outside. It's like, oh great, like you got some more likes on your post. It's like, but that took something that like made like had me put myself out there in a whole sort of way, right? So someone who's so having colleagues, or other people in the industry who you trust, that you feel like have your back, that you feel like you can talk to honestly, authentically about the challenges, who might have their own advice or guidance, who might have their own networks that you can reach out to. Again, the two like contract type roles that I have outside of my own practice that I've gotten have been through contacts I've had, other coach colleagues, right? And I wasn't actively pursuing them, but because I was in contact with them, they knew my like how I was as a coach, they were able to put me in touch with these opportunities. So having a community, it can feel very lonely. Um, of being any sort of entrepreneur can feel lonely. But having some sort of community around you, I think, to kind of support you so you don't feel alone, I think could be valuable. So.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of communities like that that people can look up online, and even even our community is that kind of community in a way. So thank you so much, Pal. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I think this was a great episode. For anyone who wants to reach out to you or connect with you, they can find you on your LinkedIn at Payal Shah. And they can also find you on your website, passionempowered.com. Is there any other way they could connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm starting to post there a little bit more under Passion Empowered. And yeah, it follow like look at the content if it feels good and relevant. Feel free to follow me. But no, otherwise that covers it, Rexhen. Thank you. It's been such a pleasure, and thank you for being an incredible host for this conversation.
Thank you for coming.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. To learn more about Purple Circle, our community, and how we can help you grow your business, visit joinpurplecircle.com.